Okay, we're going to go over the parts of the guitar. Now, the point of going over guitar parts is not so that we can pass a guitar parts test or know all the official terms, but it's so that when we're talking about the guitar, we're using the same words to communicate the same ideas. So we're going to go over two kinds of guitars today. We'll start with the acoustic guitar, and then we'll move over to the electric, and we'll just be talking about the differences between those two types of guitars. Now, if you got a handout in class, which would look something like this, you might want to have that on hand with you, but you don't necessarily need it. We'll have graphics on the screen too. So there are three main parts to the guitar. It's broken down into the head, the neck, and the body. That's our three parts: head, neck, body, which is pretty easy to remember because head, neck, body, right, goes in the same basic order. So if you are a right-handed player, you're strumming with your right hand, and that's your strum hand, so you're fretting with your left hand. And then we have our strum hand, which is the right hand if you're right-handed. If you're left-handed, it's the other way around. Your right hand is going to be your fret hand, and then your left hand is going to be your strum hand. So going back to the right. So what we're going to do first is we're going to do an overview of all the different parts of the guitar, because there's quite a few, and then we're going to come back and we're going to highlight the really important ones that you definitely need to know. So one of the more important concepts that we're going to be going over too is our location on the guitar, what we're doing directionally. So if we're over here on our fret hand and we're moving toward our strum hand, or we're going from this side of the guitar to this side of the guitar, or from the neck to the body, then we're going up the guitar. That's what we consider up. And therefore the opposite, going away from the body and toward the head, is going to be moving down. And the reason for that is because musically or tonically, you can hear that as we move in that direction, our tone is ascending, it's going higher, right? And as we go this way, the tone is getting lower and going down. So this way is up on the guitar, and this way is down on the guitar. And that can be a little confusing, because if you're holding the guitar like this, right, then it feels like we're going up because we're going toward the ceiling, but in reality, we're going to call that going down the guitar because we're going down the scale as we move. So over here on the headstock, we have these little guys that are called the tuner pegs. And these line up with the, of course, strings of your guitar, and they're what are used to tune the strings. That's why they're called tuner pegs. They're also called machine heads. And those are connected here to what's called the posts, and that's what connects the strings to the body of the guitar up here on the headstock. So each one of those tuner pegs controls the post, which controls the tension on the string and tunes it. And then you also typically have the name brand of the guitar here. In this case, this one is a Fender guitar. I might have to delete that if I can't get permission to use it. And then down here at the headstock, it ends with what's called the nut. This is a little plastic piece on your guitar, and the nut is what separates the head from the neck. All right, so moving on from the headstock of the guitar, you get down to the neck of the guitar. And the neck of the guitar holds quite a few pieces. It holds the strings of the guitar. These are your strings going this way. It holds these vertical lines here, these bars that are called frets. And it also holds the board that contains those frets. It's called the fretboard. So you've got your fretboard and you have your strings on the neck of the guitar. And you also have little dots on here that are called inlays. So up close here, you can see the frets on the guitar. We have fret number 1, 2, 3, and 4 there, and then 5 and 6, and we continue to count that way as we go up the neck toward the body of the guitar. The nut can also be considered fret 0. So the space between the nut here and fret number 1, that entire space is fret number 1. And between number 1 and 2, that entire space is fret 2. This whole space is 3, 4, and 5. So the spaces between those two frets represent the actual fret itself. It'll be the higher fret that represents the entire space between those two. And then of course here we still have our strings down here. String number 1 is the skinny one, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then going the other way, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. You'll also note you have these little dots here. Those are called inlays. Those are typically on the 3rd and 5th frets, and then the 7th and the 9th and the 12th on a standard guitar. So right here we have string number 1, then 2, then 3, 4, 5, and 6. We're going the other way. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. So again, if we're moving away from the nut, we have our frets here, the frets 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so we count up, going up the guitar. And then we have our strings, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and 6. That's why it's called a 6-string guitar. So the skinny string down here at the bottom is string number 1, and the thick string here at the top is string number 6. So this is your high, and this is your low string. This is string 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Or going the other way, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And that pretty much takes care of the neck of the guitar, which brings us up to the body of the guitar. And on the body, the first thing most people notice is on an acoustic guitar, there's this giant hole in the middle of the guitar. That's called your sound hole. It's the hole that projects sound from the guitar. Now, the entire body of the guitar does make sound. You can cover up the whole of the guitar and it'll still make plenty of sound because this resonates. The top of the guitar here resonates and creates a lot of sound. Around the sound hole, there's typically some sort of decoration. That's called a rosette. It's just a fancy Italian word. You don't really need to worry about memorizing what that is. Then over here, this is a very important part. This is called the bridge. And the bridge is divided into a couple of different pieces. So here on the bridge, we have this little piece right here. That plastic piece is the counterpart to your nut. This is called the bridge saddle, specifically called the saddle where the strings pass over. And on many acoustic guitars, most acoustic guitars, you have these little guys that are called bridge pins that help hold the string into the bridge. The bridge is what conducts the sound from the strings into the body of the guitar and causes it to resonate. It's a very, very important piece on the guitar. Now here we have a different kind of a bridge. This is an ovation guitar and it has what's called a pinless bridge. You can see there are no pins here on the bridge. It just passes through the back of the guitar. The pins or the strings are fed through these little holes and they come out this way, and that's called a pinless bridge. And there are a number of reasons that you may want a pinless bridge. One of them is if you're a very percussive player like I am and you tend to beat on the guitar a little bit, it helps to not have those pins there because they can bruise up the palm of your hand. And it's also just one less piece to break or get lost or to have to fool with when you're changing strings. And it's strictly a matter of personal opinion. So the body of the guitar is broken up into 3 specific components. You have the top, and then you have the side, and then you have the back. That's how we refer to those 3 parts of the body. This is the top, the side, and the back. The back and sides are typically made of one type of wood, where the top here is made of a different type of wood because of the way that it resonates, and that's pretty typical with most guitars. You'll also see here that I've got this guitar strap attached to this one, so I could take this and I could put it over my head like so. Pretty obvious what this is for, but so that I can stand up and then I can let go of the guitar and I'm able to play without having to hold the guitar up, or I can play in a standing position. And then you'll also note that this guitar has what's called an electric pickup right here. So this pickup is an electronic box. It's battery powered and it has little knobs and things on here to control volume and tone and even a built-in tuner. This one doesn't have a battery in it, so you can't see it in action, but it would light up and tell you what note that you're playing on each string. And this is designed to pick up the sound from the strings as it channels through the bridge of the guitar there, and then it comes out this piece right here. This is your output jack, and that goes into a guitar amplifier or a PA system. And so that makes this what's called an acoustic electric guitar. So it's an acoustic guitar, but it has electric capability. Now that doesn't make it a substitute for an electric guitar, and we'll talk about that in a second. All that means is that you can plug it into an amplifier so that you can get a nice big sound. If you're going to be performing on stage in any kind of performance scenario, you almost always want an acoustic electric guitar if you're gonna be playing acoustic, and that's just because it's a lot easier to mix that. You don't have to do it. You can put a microphone on the guitar, but pretty universally for most live performances, people prefer to have that electric pickup. It just makes it easier to mix the sound. Okay, so a quick review. We've got 3 primary parts of the guitar. We've got the head, the neck, and the body. And going from the fret hand to the strum hand, we're going up the guitar. If you're right-handed, that's from left to right. If you're left-handed, that's from right to left. And that's the direction we're going. From the nut toward the bridge, we're going up, and from the bridge toward the nut, we're going down. That part is pretty important to keep in mind. So again, here we have our headstock has our tuner pegs on it, and it's got our posts that connect the strings to the guitar. Then we've got our nut that is the separation, the barrier between the headstock and the neck. And of course, the neck contains our frets, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, moving up. Our strings, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. It's got the fretboard and then these little dots or inlays on there. And then here on the body, we have our sound hole. We've got our rosette here. Then we've got our bridge with the bridge saddle and the bridge pins. Going through this as the primary components that are going to be universal universal to pretty much all guitars and really, really important to understand where they are just for communication in class and when you're breaking down the different ideas, is to know that this is the bridge and this is the nut. The nut is where the strings begin and we move up toward the bridge. So nut, bridge, very important. Strings 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, very important. Frets 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, very important. Everything else is pretty much a variable and not as critical to being able to communicate about learning ideas. So that pretty much covers it for the super important stuff we need to know about the parts of the guitar. But now let's take a look at the electric guitar, which has a couple of different pieces on it for a couple of different reasons. Okay, so this is a Stratocaster type guitar. It's a very, very popular guitar model, one of the most popular guitar models on the planet. So this is the one I'm gonna go over. You can see on the wall behind me, there's a lot of different variations of guitars. We just don't have time to go through all of them, but the basic principles will be the same here. Everything on your headstock and your neck are pretty much the same on the electric guitar, so we don't really have to go over any of that. Where things change are down here on the body of the guitar. The first thing that you'll notice is that the sound hole is not there. There is no sound hole on most electric guitars. Now, caveat, some hollow body guitars do have sound holes on them. There are hollow body electric guitars that are not acoustic electric guitars. But this is a solid body electric guitar, and therefore it's solid and it doesn't have a hole. Instead, it has what's called electric pickups. So these pickups here are electromagnets. They are iron bars that are wrapped in copper, and they conduct the signal of the string into the electronics of the guitar, and they feed it out into this output jack right here. I've got a plug in it right now that can come out. It'll make a pop like that. I can plug it back in into my amplifier, which is off screen right now and you can't see. That's a whole nother can of worms I don't want to open up right now. But here you've got what are called pickup selectors over here. So there's a switch here, and this is called a 5-way pickup selector. We have 3 pickups here. This is called the bridge pickup because it's next to the bridge, the middle pickup because, well, it's in the middle, and then the neck pickup because it's right up here at the neck of the guitar. So you have your bridge and you have your middle and you have your neck. So when this selector is in this position, only this pickup is active. So the bridge is on, the middle is off, and the neck is off. When I switch it to position 2, the bridge stays on, but now the middle is on as well. So the middle and the bridge are both active, but the neck is still off. When I go here, only the middle pickup is on, and the bridge and the neck are off. When I go here into position 4, middle and neck are on. And then when I go to position 5, only the neck pickup is on there. And this has a change in the sound of the strings when I play it. If I go to a different pickup, it has kind of a different sound to it. It's a little bit subtle on this setting. It's a little more obvious on different settings and with different techniques, but that's the general idea. Then here you also have your hardware on your guitar. So these are little knobs that control things like the volume, which is the output of the guitar. It can go louder, it can make it quieter like so. That has a lot to do with how much sound is coming out of the guitar. And then you have your tone knobs down here, which basically change the sound from like a muffly sound to a more tinny sound, and it depends on which tones, which knobs you're using. They control different pickups, and they'll have a bit of an effect on that too. And then the bridge of the electric guitar is quite different. This bridge down here has individual saddle for each string here, and each one of those saddles can be adjusted. And then you have this, which is called a whammy bar. It's been incorrectly called a tremolo bar for many, many years, so that's how it's always listed as a tremolo bar, but really it's a vibrato bar. But it's called a tremolo bar because somebody got it wrong, and that's just what they stuck with. But what that does is that can bend the strings and kind of give you a cool little sound like that. So the electric guitar has a lot of different options. It's very, very cool with different settings, and I've got my tone knobs all screwed up here. There we go, that's a little bit better. But if I were to maybe hit an effect pedal, which I'll just jump up here real quick and hit, then I can switch effects, and the guitar will have a very different sound. Like so. Those are sounds you can't really get on the acoustic guitar. So on the acoustic guitar as well versus the electric guitar, typically you have a thinner neck on the electric guitar with lighter strings that are closer to the fretboard, which is called lower action, which really just means that the electric guitar feels a little bit easier to play. You can bend strings more easily because it doesn't have to generate as much sound Most of its sound is caused by amplification. Okay, so that's pretty much it for guitar parts. If you have questions on that, make sure that you either message us through the website or get in touch with your instructor. And remember that the point of this is not to memorize all the correct terms or anything like that, but that we're using the same words to talk about the same things on guitar. Different people will have different terminology for things, and there's nothing wrong with that. You just want to have some kind of common point of terminology there just to keep things clear. All right, you guys have a good one. Take care.